Welcome everyone to another episode of the world's greatest news and reviews.
Giving you opinions about nerd stuff is our superpower.
I'm Capt Mal.
I'm Hailstorm.
And I'm Weapon 2.
No rap?
No, I
That's
saved
the
those for the
podcast thing.
podcast, man.
So if you want to hear his epic raps, you got to watch the podcast. It all makes sense now.
Good recovery. Good recovery.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this episode, and we're going to be giving you our official review for the Netflix original series, The Umbrella Academy Season 2.
Dos.
So if you haven't already checked it out, go ahead and check out our Season 1 review that we did, feels like forever ago.
Yes.
Definitely.
It was a different time.
If you watch that video, totally different setup. We don't got mics or anything. It's rough.
That was before we had a nice backdrop.
Before we didn't even have a
We're
backdrop.
using the amazing handmade hailstorm creation of the Thor.
We had your blanket
Thor
hanging up, yeah.
backdrop. That was awesome.
That's back when we were
Yes.
just yelling at
That
my
was
cell
old school.
phone. Yeah.
Man, that's go back. That's a vintage.
That was
go
a
back
good
and
review,
see that.
though.
It was good. It
We
was
just didn't
really
have shit.
good.
But if you haven't even checked out the Umbrella Academies and you don't know what this is, Weapon 2. Tell the kids at home. What is the Umbrella Academy?
Well, the Umbrella Academy, I can't remember how I described it in our original thing.
I remember. I've rewatched it recently. You did a great job.
It was pretty fun. I can't even remember.
You did. You said that it was Lemony Snicket's meets X-Men meets two other things.
Yes.
And I was just like, what the hell?
I'll tell you what, if you want to see genius at work, which sometimes it fails me, that was genius.
That was well played.
So there's a team basically of kids who are born on the same day in like a day's time. Is that correct? Something like that. There's some
They're born the
very-
exact same day, exact same minute everywhere around the world.
same minute, but there was something, I thought it was something where they were very accelerated in the whole birthing, the birthing pregnancy process. Anyways, we don't know how it happened, but they're all born the same time all over the world. I think there may be as many as 40 some
There's a lot. Yeah.
on the planet, but we find in our story, our characters, there's 7. There's 7 that Reginald Hargraves finds and gets together. He plays
straight
the
up
role of
purchases them.
their.
He buys them.
Yes, and he plays the role of their Charles Xavier father type figure of the team of superheroes from child that he trains as children with their superpowers and kind of manipulates them. He's kind of a horrible father.
Not even
person.
kind of.
Yeah.
Not even kind
They
of.
have a robot mother. They have the most wonderful little talking
love
chimpanzee
him so much.
pal named Pogo. Yes, Pogo he's just awesome. I love Pogo.
He was going to say
He
BOGO,
was
which
gonna
is
say
just
BOGO.
buy one, get one. Buy one, get one free.
Anyway, so the teams kind of got this kind of weird father that kind of not, he's not very nurturing. He treats them, and they go through a lot of struggles. Number one, Space Boy, got the gorilla DNA in him or something. He's super strong guy. He goes to the moon. He spends a lot of time on the moon all by himself.
Well, because their dad plays favorites.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, man, that dude's got problems. And he so what are the other characters? We got Ben, who is a octopus monster inside of him, tentacles, crazy, but who dies before we even start seeing them in season 1. You have Diego, who's like a Batman character who can throw knives and make him go around corners and got a lot of fighting skills and stuff like that. We have who's the guy who sees ghosts? That's what's his name? Klaus. Klaus sees ghosts to include his brother Ben. That's his power. Sees ghosts all the time. He's got some substance abuse problems and some addictions, stuff that he's trying to work through. We have number 5, who we never really know his name. He's just called number 5. He's just a little boy. He's actually an old man in a boy's body. He travels through time. He can jump from place to place in time. We have also the rumor girl whose name is What, Allison. Allison, she can control people because she says, I heard a rumor, and then they got to do whatever she says. We've got number 7, whose name is, what's her name? Vanya. They think she's raised thinking she doesn't have any powers, but she's the most powerful of all of them. She's like an atomic bomb. She's nobody you want to mess with. You don't want to get her angry, that's for sure. But she doesn't know how to control her powers very well. Who am I leaving out? Have I left
you got them all.
I think you got them all.
Right. So that's pretty much
that's the premise of the characters.
Yeah. So all these superpowered people are born at the same time. Fucking crazy Xavier goes around, purchases all of them, trains them to be a superhero team, and they fall apart because he's an asshole. And the first season of the show is them coming back following his death. Spoilers for season 1, and shenanigans ensue. Season 2 then picks up right where season 1 ends, and now.
Well, should we say what happens at the end of the season?
We'll get to that, but okay. I kind of before we dive into spoilers, I want to know kind of Hailstorm's overall views on season 1. Since you can watch our review to know what we think of that. What do you think of season 1? What did you think of that, real quick, just in general?
I liked season 1. I like the establishing of the characters. I think that some parts of it were slow, but it was establishing a whole universe, basically. So there's, sometimes when you're building a plot for the long haul, it is that way. But I liked it, and I feel like you get pretty invested. And even when you think you're not invested in characters, later on you realize that you are. Yeah. So I liked it. Yeah,
and so this is based off a graphic novel, not Marvel or DC. What is this?
I think it's Dark Horse.
I want to say it's Dark Horse. Right. So as Hailstorm said, it's setting up a complete universe unto itself, which is really cool. And the characters are really engaging. The cast is phenomenal. The music, holy shit, the music is amazing. Really good.
Especially in season 2. I can't remember season 1 very well, but season 2, I was saying that soundtrack is good.
So let's go around real quick before we start spoiling and say what we thought of season 2 as a whole. As a whole, if you watch the last episode of the podcast, episode 24, part 1, guest of the show, friend of the show, Zod kind of touches on it because he was the only one who completed it at that point. We're obviously done with it now. I 100% agree with everything he said. I really, really, really loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I don't think it was quite as good as season 1, but that's not taking away anything from season 2. Overall, it was great. I love the time travel bit. I love them being stuck in the 60s. I liked the whole plot that they were building to. The music was even better in season 2.
Yeah.
It built. It had another really cool cliffhanger. Parts of it did drag. Parts of it were a little repetitive for me personally. But as a whole, I think it was great. And the cliffhanger that it ends on was the same shit. I was just like, wow, I want it now, which is the best way a season should end. What did you think?
I thought it picked up the pace a little bit. I really, really loved it. There were parts, especially with the Allison storyline, that were given the framing of right now and watching it with everything that's going on in the world right now, were really relevant, impactful. Yeah. So that felt amazing. And even if, it had to be the plan all along, and it had to be filmed before that was happening.
Well, I feel like it was a plan, but they didn't know how relevant it was gonna be.
Right. So that made it just even more. And I'm sure that that's going to make it a little more divisive, because there's always going to be people out there that don't want the real world intruding into their thing. But the comics and comic books themselves have always reflected the times that they're in.
Correct.
And have
They've always made social
tried to
statements.
push the envelope and make social statements. So I think that it was very poignant. So I loved it.
And you can't argue like, it's making a social point about today. No, it's about the fucking time that they're in.
Right.
And it just happens to still be relevant. So.
And this was filmed before any of this happened.
Yes.
This was in the can a long time ago, because nobody can film anything new.
And you know what? If it's making you feel uncomfortable, good. That's what it should be doing. That's what it should be doing. I don't want to get into spoilers yet.
I cried, but and I try and avoid shows that make me cry, and it was a complete surprise.
But you wouldn't know going in that this is it's just good. This was safe. It's just that good.
It was good.
Weapon 2? What'd you think?
I also, if you think that comic books aren't supposed to make social statements and stuff like that, you're not even a comic book fan.
You don't read comic books
because Marvel, DC, they've always made statements on social issues.
So many of those characters were
over
created
and over again.
solely for that purpose.
Yes.
Right. So you need to get over it if you have a problem with social statements being made in comic books. They always have.
Would you say that if somebody has a problem with comic books making social statements, they have a problem with you?
Yeah.
Will you fight him?
Yeah,
Stop encouraging him. Stop it.
I'm into my 50s now. It's getting harder and harder for me
barely
to
into
challenge
your
people
50s.
to fight. But I was I ain't afraid of a good fight. But what I'm saying here in this specific season that I really liked, it was my favorite part about this, was that it showed us, contrary to season 1, the path each person would take on their own, away from the group, away from influence from their father, what they would choose to do, the life and path that they would choose to take left to their own devices, which is really interesting because we see that number 1 kind of and it's really cool because it's basically centered around the assassination of JFK. So you see a lot of things that were happening in the time. So it's a period piece.
Yeah.
But it's also where number 1 basically becomes a muscle. Are we
no spoilers yet.
No,
Just
not yet.
overall, what did you think of the
I
season?
will say though, I felt more emotionally invested in this season than the last.
So what do you think is the better season, 1 or 2?
For me, 2.
2? What about you?
I like. It's hard for me to tell, but for different reasons. The number 1 was I never read all the comic books before. I never read any of these comic books before I started watching the program. So for me, the introduction to the characters and finding out what this world is about and trying to understand and meet everybody, super cool, super exciting. All that stuff was great for me. Number 2, seeing how basically their own individual personalities being amplified by them taking their own paths, and everything else, also really cool. So I'm not like you guys who you think that number 2 was not quite as good as number 1. I liked them both for different reasons, but I guess number 1 is better, and only for the reason that I was meeting the characters and finding all this out for the first time. That part makes it extra exciting.
And I agree with you, and it's only by like a hair.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you guys this. What if season 2 had been season 1 and you had gotten to know the characters through who they would have been independent of each other first?
I think you could even go, well, you'd kind of have a lot of 1 spoiled for you.
Then if it was that way, then
I would like
2
2
would be I would like that more for the same reasons that I was getting to know the characters through that. Whichever season is the first time I'm figuring this out and seeing it for the first time is going to be a little more exciting.
It's not even like 1-2. It's like 1-1A to me. And I feel that's exactly what it was. It was fun in meeting the characters and learning about them. And so this does exactly what like part 2 of like the sequel of a movie or part 2 of a series should do. And that now I know the characters, you don't got to spend time doing that anymore. Now we can get into like them as people and them as a person. And that's what was really good.
And there's a little more mystery for the first time too, because you don't know anything about them. Yeah. So there's excitement about what's going to happen next. What is even going on here?
No idea what the world is.
It's a little bit less once you know them. Right. It's not quite as the unknown excitement, but it's still good.
Still very great. Yeah. So I think
I like the power of this, of kind of the social statements and the individual journeys had more, let's say, feelings or emotion involved, as opposed to just the excitement of trying to discover what's going on.
Yeah,
that's what I like too better.
This definitely got more of an emotional reaction.
There was so much more depth with each character. Right. That's why I like 2 better.
And that's totally fair. Like I can't argue that you're wrong for liking 2 better. You know, I've either one. I just think, and I feel like I speak for the entire panel here, phenomenal show.
Right.
If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. If you like superhero stuff at all, check it out. Even if you don't, this is different enough. Nobody's really walking around with capes and stuff like that to where like you could probably get into it. And the storytelling's just good. The acting's good. The effects are good. Really, across the board, it's a phenomenal show. I just think at parts it lags, and that's not really the show's fault, because when it is even dipping in pace, it's character building or it's world building, and like that's not necessarily a bad thing. And the music, well, I'm sure Hailstorm will comment on a lot later, but oh my God, the music was fantastic.
And I'll tell you, I'm a super big fan I love Marvel and DC. I love everything about their universes, everything about their characters. I'm always loving to see new universes,
You're yearning for
new
more
stories that I love to see characters that I don't know anything about. My problem of having been such a comic book fan my entire life is I know so much about characters. I'm amazed, and it makes you feel like a kid again when you're learning new characters that you know nothing about, and you're like, I'm learning all this the same time as everybody else.
As like a super hardcore fan, it's rare for you to have new characters you know nothing about.
Right.
So
and I love it. Cool. I love it. That's what I'm saying.
So I think our consensus is season 2 is phenomenal. Season 1's phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We're going to move forward now into spoilers, and we're going to presume you know what happens in season 1 also, because we can't talk about season 2 really without talking about season 1. So we're going to get into spoilers. We're going to talk about things about the season that we really, really liked, maybe some stuff that we didn't. But Hailstorms, let's start with you. With this season, what stood out to you? What did you really like?
We're now into spoilers.
Spoilers.
Yep.
God, I mean, it was just so good. And I have to start by saying somebody at work was talking about it, and they were like, yeah, I started watching it, but it was really slow, and so I just couldn't get interested for the season 2. And I was like, like, how can you even say that?
Let me tell you why you're wrong.
Right. And I mean, I don't even know how to argue with that, because like once you get into the powerful moments of Allison going through like being a major actor in what town are they in? They're in Dallas, right?
Dallas. Yeah.
In Dallas in 63 in the civil rights movement, and how powerful that is.
In the first episode, the second it showed what year she was in, and then she walks in the diner. I was just like,
with the sign.
I was like, this is gonna be the worst for her.
Yeah, so I mean that in itself is powerful, because she's coming from the future, and she knows what. Like, she drew the short fucking
She
stick.
did, but she's also like a badass character. She's going to stand up for herself. So when all of a sudden it fast forwards a year and she's in the civil rights movement, it's like, that's exactly what she would do.
Yeah, and I love that, and it's powerful, and it made me think on so many levels, and I almost think it's probably cliche to say, like, holy cow, that was moving. But I mean, in the context of this superhero movie, that they could have ignored it totally.
They could have.
They could have pretended.
They could have focused on the Kennedy thing.
Yeah, like 1963 was. Many movies would have ignored it. Mm-hmm. They would have pretended like, it would have been fine to be back in time. And they confronted it, and it was powerful. Yeah. So I gotta say, like, that sticks with me the most.
Yeah. As specifically about that path right there for that character was the fact that let's go to spoil. Let's get this out of the way. Number 7 destroys the world in season 1. Okay.
And then she does it again.
Yes.
Fucking Vanya.
She's just misunderstood.
So she destroys the world. It's the father and number 1. A lot of other people's fault in this thing, but she was not well prepared for the situation. But in that time period, rumor, Allison cuts her throat, or gets her throat cut by Vanya, right? Yeah. Gets her throat cut so she can't use her power or speak or anything. So she has some healing time, and I think the fact that the part she played in all of the bad events that happened then made her either afraid or unwilling to use her power. So the entire time up until almost the end of her character arc in this season 2, she won't use her power at all.
Which I loved, because she even says that she likes not using it. She likes,
and she could influence all kinds of things that are happening.
And if you're being involved in the civil rights movement, that's the power to have to make some fucking. So she had a lot of balls, in my opinion, to not use her power, to just stand up for herself and her people for their own merit. You know what I mean?
You almost always also see when she finally does use it why maybe she's afraid of her power, because she gets a little power mad. Yeah. And she starts to kind of use her power attention for evil.
And it doesn't go over well.
Over the top.
Well, so that's the kind of power more than the other ones that can corrupt you 100%. Like I was having a conversation with a friend of the show, Alias, about it, and she didn't quite get, when she binge watched the first season, why her ex was so mad that she rumored the daughter to go to sleep. And I'm like, because you're taking away someone's free will. Right. You're removing that, and that's a slippery slope.
Turn your child into a puppet.
Where the fuck do you go from there? Don't date the guy I don't want you to. Don't go to the college I don't want you to go to. Like, all of a sudden,
there's a big ethical
moral
thing with
gone.
That,
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to hijack your thing. So that was that one character. Was there anything else in the season 2 that you really enjoyed about that?
The music.
The music?
Loved
What
the
are some of the
music
your favorite songs?
Much. Well, one of the things that they did is they played period pieces from that time.
Yeah.
And then they also played current songs, but a lot of them were covers. And so they sounded different than they would if they had just played the current song. Right. I can't say any one song stood out, but I'm definitely going to try and find a soundtrack.
They're really good at like playing the correct song tonally for the fight, whether it's trying to be played comically or like in earnest, or like they just know how to set your mood with the music. And as Zod said in the podcast, it's everything Suicide Squad wishes that it was. Like it's every time a cool song would kick off, like I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But to your point, Weapon 2, it was cool because so they go back in time following Vanya's apocalypse, and they get dropped off at different points in time, separated by a couple of years. And it is cool to see where they all go with their lives completely on their own, thinking they're by themselves, thinking they're probably never going to see any of their family again, and they might be stranded there forever. And it's just funny, like, it's one of those where you wait for them to start coming together and seeing them reunite. And then I just love, like, when they did, they're like, what's everybody up to? And it's like, Klaus, he's a cult leader. And then it's just like,
funny.
Of course he is.
Right.
Like, no shit.
Yeah.
But also, when I talk about the characters and the journeys they take, it's funny that, of course, Klaus goes straight to kind of maybe what an addict's type go-to is, and that's kind of manipulating people.
Yeah.
So he goes to where he's just trying to con everybody until he finally gets so tired.
Right.
He reaches basically his ultimate dream where he is a cult leader, and he's just everybody just thinks he's the best thing ever, and he's basically got control over all these people. And basically it all just becomes too much for him. He doesn't want it anymore.
And it's also, you talk
He's like
about
Jon Snow. I don't want it.
But you also talk about him being an addict, and so he gets an entire group of people to follow him and tell him how amazing he is, and like surround him and put you up on this pedestal. But he ultimately realizes that it's hollow, that it's not real. So like that plays into his character that much freaking more. Which again, this is great writing. It's great writing across the board because everything all the characters did to me felt 100% organic and like something they would actually be doing were they stuck in this time period. You know what I mean?
Number one, Space Boy is basically living out his daddy issues.
Oh my God.
Jack Ruby, who killed, what's his face? Who's the guy who killed Kennedy?
Is it,
what's his name? Do any of us know?
Lee Harvey
Oswald.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jack Ruby, who killed Lee Harvey Oswald in history, that's who's a mafia guy, is who Space Boy number one Luther gets wound to, where he's basically nothing he does is something that he enjoys or wants to do or anything. He just basically gets put in the stereotypical tough guy role as an enforcer, tough guy, bouncer, bodyguard,
fighter,
who to make money. He just, whatever Jack Ruby tells him to do. Hey, I need you to. We're gonna do this whole fighting game thing. So here's the deal, bro. You're gonna take a beating at the beginning. We're gonna drive up the bets, and then that's when you're gonna start winning the fight. And it's just over and over again. And he's doing anything he tells him to do, and he's just hungering for his approval.
True,
right?
But then like if you're someone placing a bet, wouldn't you be like, oh, we're gonna bet on this other guy? I'm like, really? Because that guy looks like a gorilla. Like I'm not betting against that guy.
He's kind of annoying.
He's wearing a tank top. Like,
but also, he's got the gorilla look. But those guys, I was sitting there going, oh, geez, he's a superhero. He's super big. He's just gonna look. It's going to look like nobody can beat him, but they pick some guys who are pretty big that look like, I don't know, if this guy doesn't have superpowers, this would be a pretty even fight.
Also, one of my favorite characters, Diego, he was great in this season.
Yes.
He was fantastic being in the mental asylum. Like, I thought that was really cool.
Right, which I don't. Well, I mean, let's put it this way: if he's like the Batman character, of course he's gonna wind up in some type of a situation.
Well, because he's gonna want, because he more than anyone would be the one who wants to try to save Kennedy, clearly. Right. Yeah. And I like that how that messed him up. I also like all the stuff that happened with the time. What is it? The Time Bureau? Like, what is that called? Whatever the
starts with a C. What are they? The Commission.
The Commission. Yeah. All the stuff with the Commission was great. When 5 kills all the board members, that was fantastic.
Yeah,
Fishbowl dude was fucking great.
I I love the addition of the character that he meets in the asylum.
Yes,
that ends up being
she's
like
great.
a
She's
total.
good.
And then when you find out that she has the powers that she has, and that
She can do any of their powers. She's like Rogue.
yeah, she absorbs it and then
Yes.
uses it against them, which was a holy shit moment.
Which makes me wonder, can she
Yeah.
only do the power once she's seen it?
I think she can only do it once she
She has
sees
to
it,
see
and
the
she
power.
can only do it one at a time.
Yes.
She can't just hang on
Right.
to it.
But I mean,
that is
even
pretty
before we
cool.
got to that part, her character,
She was
That
cool.
was good.
especially for that time.
Right.
Before you knew
started
who she
thinking,
was.
like she's not in the right time either.
Yeah.
Before she knew
Yeah.
she was a daughter of her mother and
There's
all that
something
kind of
off
stuff.
about her.
You just, she is an interesting character.
Yeah, like you're on board with it. But the thing that got me is like, so when they figure out that she's one of them, that she's essentially their sister,
Born
she's
on
one
the
of the ones that
same-
was born
yeah.
on the same day, has the same powers. It didn't even dawn on me that they didn't know about other ones like them.
No, there's a whole bunch of them all over the world
and
and they don't know
No, but
about.
they-
we know
act
that.
like they don't
I
know.
thought that they knew
No,
that there was other ones. I never put together that they thought they were the only ones.
Oh,
Because they were shocked when they realized she was one of them. They were just like, "There's more." What the fuck? Like they were taken back. by it.
Yeah, I guess I
just
never thought
thought-
that they didn't know that there
Yeah,
was
me
any
too.
other
So
ones.
then when you
Okay.
realize that, I'm just
Right.
like, oh, that's such a fucked thing for them all to realize.
Hold, please. Alias is over there mock crying because we're spoiling things, even though we said
I told her to
spoilers.
get out of the room.
told-
Maybe
No.
you should keep listening.
We said spoilers.
said spoilers.
We said before. Yeah,
Sorry,
you're on
not
a
our problem.
laptop. The
Not our
laptop
problem.
can be
It's
moved.
a podcast.
Then
We
tune
told
it
ya.
out,
Yes,
or
we did due diligence. We did
did.
everything we could do.
yeah.
So
Just saying.
Here's another thing I noticed.
Another spoiler that she hasn't heard of.
Number 5, who's a really good. I'll tell you, all these actors are really
He
good.
might be the best.
But number
though.
5
He's
is
so
He's
yeah.
a really good actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
He's-
you really believe that he's way older than he
Yeah.
looks.
I just love him talking shit to Luther and Diego, calling him stupid and shit. But
Everything he did, everything he does, everything one of his movements is like extra animated.
Yeah.
I have to say that's why I was irritated when they bring the older number 5.
he was.
Yeah.
He
because
didn't.
not as
that
good.
guy is not as good.
Not
He
anywhere
didn't
as
feel
good.
like the same person.
No,
No.
because if he had been as good of an actor, he could have copied the movements more.
Right.
Yeah.
And the mannerisms.
Because he's always he's always doing stuff like that.
Very
One
manner-
thing,
has a lot of
he
mannerisms.
always looks like he's running fast, but he's not running fast. Have you seen him when he's running? He's got arms and legs going like this, and when you see him actually running, because he's either running out of or into a portal, but when you actually see him run down an alley, he's not very fast. But his movements make you think he should be faster than he is.
He just seems to me like the way he carries himself. He just seems to me like a guy who's just beaten down by the world because he carries himself like just a little hunched over and just a little like weathered. So you picture an old guy in this kid's body,
He's also pretty full of himself, though.
right?
Also-
Because he's seen shit.
The actor who plays the dad, Hargraves or whatever.
Yes.
He's a more prominent character in this because he's alive. I thought he was great. I liked that the mom robot was a real person.
Yeah,
someone
one
that he
time
had a
before,
relationship
yeah.
with that you could tell left, and that's why he made her. Shows he does have a little bit of humanity there.
Well, and they gave her a little bit of, they gave her more depth where they could
Did
have
it.
been, she could have had like a single note and been like this woman.
She could have just been this hot chick that he saw,
Right,
but there was
right.
she
But
was
there was
actually
more.
a love interest that you could tell leaves him.
And she was a scientist.
Yeah. So I loved Diego's reaction when he
And
saw
you
her.
get to see the origin story for Pogo.
Pogo. That was
The
good. When
talking
little baby
chimpanzee?
Pogo
Wait,
comes
I want
out,
to go
that was
back a
great.
second. Diego has mommy issues.
Diego does
For
have mommy.
sure.
Well, he's the one who freaked out the most when Mommy Robot got injured.
Yeah.
And so when he sees her,
I liked that there was a lot of
fantastic
continuity with
Yes.
that. Diego definitely has the most mommy issues.
Yes. Baby Pogo was
Yes.
was fucking adorable.
One of the biggest reveals that I already knew from the comic books that I didn't know if or when they were going to put reveal is that Reginald Hargraves is an alien
Yeah.
from another planet.
I was literally
he did
about
say
to
that
say
ahead
this.
of time.
I was
He
literally
like,
about
I
to
don't
say
know
this.
if they're going to
Yes.
say this.
I was like, I said that before any of. I was telling Tosh, I go, he's an
Tasha?
alien. Oh, I was telling Hailstorm that he's an alien, and they haven't really mentioned it in any of the things. And then they show him peel off his human skin and kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Lesson.
Okay, so
I mean, I don't know why. I don't even know why she's still here. She knows we're
she
doing
could
spoilers.
leave.
We just had a
could
cover.
leave.
We had take
the laptop
with ya.
somewhere else.
Take it with you.
That's why they make them portable.
Take it with you.
So I did. Okay, so I haven't read the comics or anything.
Yeah.
No fucking.
He's an alien,
so
bro.
when that happened, I was like, "What the fuck am I
Which is
watching?"
also cool. Either because he's an alien or he's just a badass. You get to see his fighting skills.
Oh god, with the screaming and the blood.
Yeah,
and
he was fighting Diego.
So how did you feel when
fighting.
that was revealed, not knowing? Because I only knew because he said it ahead of time. He said, "I don't know if they're gonna show this."
Hum quieter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could tell when he was gonna do something, and then when he started splitting, I really didn't know what I was expecting, and I had to rewind it and pause it on his head, and I was like, "Holy fuck, he's an alien!" And I don't know.
Did you jump up and start yelling at the TV?
I was excited, and it's one of those like.
I love to see pompous assholes who think they can just tell they got power.
Yeah.
Power from either position
like
or politics or whatever,
thing.
basically telling somebody, "Hey, fuck you," and the person goes, "Oh, I got a little secret you don't know."
Yeah, no,
and I'm gonna kill you all right
great.
now.
I was just like, "What the fuck?" Like I said, I rewound it, I watched it again, I had to pause it to see exactly what it looked like because it only shows the back of the head. Just total swerve. I knew there was something up with him. Never ever guessed.
No, it shows the front of him.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, yes, it does. Go back and watch it. It shows his face, him coming out, and him going after him.
Maybe it does. But anyway.
No, it does. There's not maybe. It does.
All right. I'll put a picture up. Totally on board because in this universe, this show is so fucking crazy. When that happened, I feel like that's the kind of thing that you could be like, well, that's dumb and cheesy, whatever. I was just like, nope, brilliant, fucking brilliant. Yeah. I'm all in. Super. And I also like that he wasn't like evil. He wasn't a bad guy. Like he told the mom robot real person, trust me, like, you know, this is what I'm doing something good here. I just can't say it. And you're just like, no, you're an asshole. And then it turns out, well, maybe he's not. You know what I mean? He's just trying to play the game and like manipulate the government to like these people into what's happening, and then they pull the trigger. But
it definitely made him as a character a little bit.
You don't hate him as much.
More sympathetic, yeah, because then you're like, oh well, he was playing a part, and that had to be hard for him because he didn't. It's not like he had a father,
and he was really trying to bite his tongue and just trying to take it from these guys, and they just kept.
But what it also makes his mistreatment of the kids is like, okay, well, he's not a human person. Maybe
it gave it a framework.
He doesn't even understand that what he's doing is not cool. He doesn't even get it.
Yeah.
You know?
He doesn't understand. We're human beings. He's
exactly.
And also,
think about what Spock would be like if he had like.
Don't those politicians or whatever like threaten him in some way before he finally does it? They just basically say they're going to kill somebody or do something to him, right?
And they said,
okay, I'm going to settle this right now.
So my only, I also liked, who's rumor girl?
Allison.
I
liked her husband. I thought because of the love interest with Luther, something was going to happen to make us like the show was going to want us to dislike him. Yeah. I like that they never went that route. I like that she clearly loved him. I like that she had to leave. I like that he understood. Like everything about that I thought was great because it's like just because we like another character and we want them to get together doesn't mean she has to be with somebody I have to hate.
Well, that's more realistic.
It's way more realistic
because not everybody's all bad and all good.
Yeah, and I have to think Allison would probably pick a good dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it makes everything about that worked, and it makes you even more sympathetic for Luther though, because it's like, well, shit, dude. If she picked an asshole that you could just come punch out, that would be one thing.
Because Luther liked him too.
Yeah, and that's what's hard. Yeah, it's like I can't.
Who can blame you?
But I like Luther is like, I'm glad you weren't alone. Like that's so everything about all that worked. The only thing that I didn't quite like was just that Vanya again is causing the end of the world. Just a tad bit repetitive.
Well, not just that, but her storyline was the slowest.
Have an amnesia again, which was so reminiscent of season 1 where she didn't know she had superpowers and she was completely in the dark. Again, she doesn't even know who she is. And she's completely in the dark.
It's slightly different, but basically the same thing. And the way I get it. The way she's going to bring about the end of the world is slightly different, but it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. So I don't feel like they're giving Vanya what she should have.
No, and I feel
like the credit she deserves.
Yeah, and I feel like Ellen Page could carry a much better storyline. She's
obviously the best known actor out of the entire group.
But she's given the least to do, really.
She's given the least to do. Her storyline with the farmer's wife and that whole thing was fine, but in relation to everything else, it was also the slowest fucking storyline.
And it was. And again, I'm on board. It was fine. cut that screen time in half.
Yeah.
We didn't need half of the establishing scenes that we got. I would have gotten all of that way quicker.
Right.
I'm going to tell you what. If season 3, she's the reason for the end of the world again.
I'm going to be like,
I'm going to say, come on.
There was a point during season 2 where I was like, Jesus, is every season going to be Vanya ends the world?
Yeah.
And we have to fight it?
I mean, I like that they made a joke about it. That's cool, but I'm just like...
But stop.
You
Don't
got,
do it again.
Yeah, I was like, season 3 better not be the same shit. Because I feel like, again, never having read the comic, I would imagine they have lots of source material that is lots of interesting and different shit going on.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But as a whole, the cliffhanger was cool. The Sparrow Academy, I know nothing about them, and I purposefully, I'm not Googling it.
That was freaking exciting, though, wasn't it? I didn't know anything about it either.
And
when I saw, hold the phone. There's another super team of kids called the Sparrow Academy. I'm in for season 3.
So when Ben died,
arguably a better name.
When Ben died, like, they was sad and all that, and I was legitimately sad. I was like, God, he's such a good actor, though. Like, it's a shame. And then he drops down. I'm like, fuck, well played, show. Didn't see that coming.
That was exciting.
And that's the thing. So, like, cliffhanger ending again.
Yeah.
Well played. And lots of times, like with the movie we just reviewed with Charlize Theron, I actually want to go... Old Guard. I actually want to go back and read those comic books. Not to be confused
of middle-aged guard or new guard.
I want to read those graphic novels. Yeah. This, I don't want to read them because I want to be surprised and not know what's going to happen in the show. I want to experience the show because it's so good. So that's pretty much everything I got to say. You guys got anything closing to wrap this up?
I think that's all I've got to say.
Good job, everybody. We did it again.
We didn't do anything. We just talked about
feel
something
like
else
it
somebody
is.
did.
Yeah, it's like the going joke about movie reviewers where it's like, hey, you think The Godfather is great? Wait till you hear what I have to say about it.
That's going to be good.
Watch
Amazing.
Umbrella Academy seasons 1 and
Please.
2. Both of them are amazing. They're pretty original. They're different from any other superhero thing that's out right now. And if you like just good shit, you owe it to yourself to watch it.
Do it.
And as always, thank you for joining us on this episode of the world's greatest news and reviews. If you've enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications.
Peace.